I'm Deborah Lamata, and this is Women Entrepreneur Spotlight. I started this podcast because I believe that every woman entrepreneur has a story to tell, and by sharing that story, she could be helping the next woman entrepreneur looking for some guidance. So tune in, get comfortable, and enjoy the series. Hi, and welcome to Women Entrepreneur Spotlight. I am so happy to have you here. Let me introduce to you today my guest, Lynn Hawthorn from Physis Publishing. How are you, Lynn?
I'm really well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. So I like to ask two questions to get us warmed up. And the first one is, tell us something interesting about yourself most people don't know.
A lot of people don't know that when I was a youngin', like fresh out of high school, I had decided to be a horse trainer. And I actually worked on a dressage training farm in the Netherlands when I was about 20. And I also worked as a trail guide on a tropical island in Australia, taking tourists for horse trail rides, where we would go through the bush, as they call it, and fire ants would like fall out of the trees onto the tourists. And we would go down to the beach and take the saddles off and take the horses for a swim in the South Pacific Ocean. So that was sort of a past life of mine.
My God, what a wonderful past life, though. I mean, I have a love of horses. I rode when I was younger, too. But I have never been into the bush or riding in the water. Oh my God, that must have been one memory you will never forget.
Quite an adventure, yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay. And so what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Oh gosh, probably not very surprising, but I would tell my 16-year-old self to be about 100 times more confident and to worry less about what other people might be thinking, or to not worry about being scrutinized or judged, or worry about other people's opinions so much.
Yeah, it's a hard age, 16, because you want to be grown up, and then there are times where you're not like, okay, I'm not ready for that. And what other people say about you does affect you, even though you shouldn't let it, like you said. But yeah, 16 is a hard age. I remember myself going through it, let alone my children. So Physis Publishing. I love the name. Yeah. So does it mean like a growth and a change within yourself?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Physis is a Latin word, and it's nature's drive or propensity to always be growing and changing.
Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm. When I was doing the interview with my cousin, Kristen Lang of Kristen Lang Creative, and looking at her website, even before I knew who had put it together, it just draws you in. I wanted to sit down with her at that point and have that cup of coffee that she had on the table. And seeing how she has changed through the years brings it all together, and your work is beautiful. You're welcome. What made you want to do the Physis Publishing?
Well, in terms of starting, running my own business, because I didn't always. I wanted more freedom. Okay. I wanted to, be able to set my own hours and work from anywhere. And the website's logo, branding, it's a part of a kind of former version of myself. I used to be a very creative person, and then there was a time sort of in the middle of my journey where I spent a lot of time in university, got some degrees, put all the creativity to the side really, and was much more studious, hardworking, analytical. So coming back to designing websites, creating logos and branding, even putting like marketing funnels together, there's a lot of creative juices that start flowing that is a lot of fun, and it feeds a part of my soul, I think, that was missing for a while.
That's awesome, because you can see it in your work. I know that bio on your webpage, you have a major in psychology. You're a visual artist, and you have that passion for that website and graphic design. So all your 20 plus years culminating, did you have it planned somewhere in your mind that this is where you wanted to come to?
No. No, I wouldn't say so. Okay. It's been a kind of a journey of exploration, I think, over time. I went down the psychology road and was a therapist for a while. And so coming back around to this was not, I can't say it was a master plan. It was more of a response to, my needs and who I was becoming.
Again, you never know where the journey is going to take you. We all start out doing different things, and then we end up where we want to be finally. And so taking the avenues that you've taken and with the visual arts and the psychology, when you meet with a client, though, all that comes together for you. And the question I had, why I wanted to ask you about the psychology part, is that do you take that and find out about the person more so before you even put together ideas for the website?
Yes, that's exactly right. So I really bring a human element to, website development that is often missing with other agencies, where because of my background as a therapist, I like to really get to know my clients, and we have what they experience is probably a very supportive relationship because I'm kind of listening between the lines to what they want, what they need. It can be really difficult to put a vision into words in English or any other language. So, listening between the lines and kind of feeling for and actually asking questions to draw out what it is exactly that they need, that they want, that they're envisioning for their website.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that, I think, makes your company stand out with that extra personal touch, getting to know your client, because sometimes you're just filling out a form online so often, push this button, click here, color scheme, what are you looking for in the end? And yet here we are with you, with Physis Publishing, and taking that extra step. And again, I'm going to refer back to your own website and to Kristen's website. Just before you even start going anywhere on the page, it's very inviting. It's very welcoming. Marketing strategies. I know you mentioned that, and I'll go into that too. And so here we are with this organic marketing. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's, I don't know if you've heard the cobbler's shoes analogy, but it's definitely a cobbler's shoes situation in terms of I am always working on other of my clients' websites and their marketing and not doing a whole lot of that for myself. So it's kind of a, do as I say, not as I do situation. However, it's been great. And it's really, my marketing has been entirely word of mouth, almost entirely word of mouth. Nothing really beats it because there's such an element of trust there. When you hear about someone from someone else, there's an instant familiarity. And then in terms of, you mentioned the website being warm and welcoming and, being a place where, or with Kristen's website, where you really want to sit down for that cup of tea that you're seeing on the website. That is an important part of it. So for anybody who's creating their own website, that is an organic process as well, where a person who lands there just feels at home. So important.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you use Facebook, Instagram, any TikTok, any of the other platforms?
Yeah, I use Facebook and Instagram for myself. That's about it.
Have you always worked your business with this type of marketing from the beginning?
Yeah, it's always been almost entirely word of mouth and a little bit of social sharing. I haven't created a budget for advertising up until this year. I've done a little bit of paid advertising this year for the first time, just as my revenue has grown and I've been able to do that. But honestly, the word of mouth is what really gets the most results. Yeah.
I just did an interview with Eunice, Mrs. At Last. It's a subscription wedding box gift company. And she had started with the paid advertising marketing and now has switched over to word of mouth and Facebook and Instagram. And I don't know if she's on TikTok, but I think more people are definitely going back to that organic feel for everything. And do you still use a business plan?
Yeah, I have always had a business plan and it has always been flexible. It's a yes and with the business plan for me because it's important to have, for me, a bit of a roadmap and know kind of what some of my goals are and where I'm going and have some ideas about how I'm going to get there. but it cannot be a rigid or too linear, because that it just doesn't always go according to plan. And I think it's so important to be able to roll with, if something goes differently that you didn't expect, but also just in terms of how an individual is doing, feeling, if there's other personal things that come up in life, even just the energy of like, wow, I really expected more results here, but I'm getting all my results here. It's so important to be able to flow with that instead of being rigidly attached to a plan.
Absolutely. And what I have said to women entrepreneurs, it's like not in concrete. It's not once you've set it down on paper, you can change it as many times as you want. But sometimes just having the basic idea of your business, how you want to grow it, like you said, then you have your check and balances and you can see where you began and where you are. So thank you for speaking to that, because it's one of my things that I do ask and find that we all come back to the same answer, that if you have a basic, and it could be in your mind right now because you never know when you're going to need it on paper. What has been one of your best successes of your business?
Oh, gosh. I think the big shining success is just the fact that I was able to quit my, full-time government position and will never spend 8 to 12 hours in an artificially lit, air-conditioned office again, God willing. So, yes. That's really just the business itself, I think, and the fact that it's given me freedom is really the big success.
That's nice, because that kind of leads into the next question I was going to ask. Are you now working your business full time?
Yes.
That's nice. That's really nice. In the beginning, did you have many challenges that you had to work through?
I think the biggest challenge was, again, the amount of time and energy that I was spending working in my previous career and in my previous position, and with long days. And lots of them, I was building my business just on the side. So on my days off, that part wasn't really a challenge. It was kind of my happy place. And the whole time that I was designing my own website, I was sort of, I don't know if you want to say manifesting or like feeling into what this would be like. So I would be doing it at a cafe or, out in the garden or whatever. And I'd be working on it and going, this is what I want to do all the time, forever. This is how I want my life to look. And then I would have to go back to the office. So I think just the low energy, like overspending, the energy or the spoons that I had at that time was probably the bigger challenge. Yeah.
I mean, the type of business you're in, it's just not a 9-to-5 position. So I'm sure that there are times where you're working on the weekend, juggling this business of a business that you love. So I'm sure working the hours that you have to work is not a problem and it doesn't bother you. But do you have to juggle your, say, home life and the business life and make sure that you're not like overdoing it?
I do. And so you're right. It's so much a 9-to-5 thing, although I do tend to keep boundaries are really important to me. And I think setting clean, healthy boundaries from the beginning, it has been a goal of mine. So in terms of my, bookings with clients, emailing, actively working on projects, I do tend to keep that on a kind of Monday to Friday, 9-to-5 schedule. However, there's a lot of time where it's just me doing the work. And so I can go out to, for a river swim or work in the garden during the day when it's beautiful out. And then I can do some more work in the evening, or it's going to rain on the weekend. So I'll do some work then, or, that kind of thing. So that tends to balance itself. That's the other question you asked was about juggling those things. So I have a lot of gardening that I do, and I really love gardening, and it demands, if I want to harvest the vegetables and pick the berries, it demands that I spend a certain amount of time on it. And the other thing is, as an entrepreneur or solopreneur, this kind of work can be a little isolating. So it's really important to me as well to connect, and even if it's co-working dates with, some of my friends who are also doing a similar, kind of business, or just putting it all down. Sometimes I just need to get off screens entirely and, just take a whole day or a couple days away from it. So I try to kind of, so far it's pretty organic in terms of just feeling into what I need, and am I overdoing something, or is something getting ignored? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm finding myself now I'm still working full time, but I have my wedding business. I have the podcast, and I'm launching my talk show tonight on the radio. And so I actually yesterday had to remind myself to get up and go out and take a break from everything and clear your head, because if you don't do that, you will end up burning out. So like you said, take that time to, switch your schedule up and do your gardening, your harvesting, taking myself out, out of the house and out into, it's here in the United States. I don't know what it's like where you are right now, but we're having a heat wave. And I think everybody's having a heat wave. So I didn't care though. I just I'm going out. I'll be back. I'm taking a break. So very important. And I think as we all start to hear the chatter about, that juggling, take that time, mark it on your calendar, because it is important. It is important that you don't get burned out. Also on your website, when you go to Physis Publishing, before we go there, why don't you tell the listeners how they get in contact with you?
Yeah, of course. So my website is probably the best way, and that's physispublishing.com. So it's PHYSIS publishing.com. There are lots of options for contacting me by email, or you can just book a chat on Zoom right off the bat, or you can get an estimate and you can take a look around at what's available. I'm also on Instagram. So my handle there is at Physis Publishing. I do also have a little free offer for people. It's a 6-part email learning series about finding your brand voice and putting together your business and your website and your marketing and stuff. So that's available on my website as well. It's called Call In Your Dream Clients, if anybody's interested in that. So that would be physispublishing.com/dream-clients would be the actual link to the page there.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. In fact, that's funny that you mentioned that with the free offer. Because as I was looking at your website, you have it's the boutique part of your website, and there's what you just talked about, and you talked about you offer the website design and branding and logo and email marketing and consulting page with the tips and tools page. That's what I wanted to talk about. CRM program. Dubsado, you talk about that one first.
So that is a separate company out of California. And that's who I use. That's sort of the system basically that I use for my bookings and payments and contracts and all that kind of stuff. And if somebody wanted to use Dubsado, they can sign up for it and they can get a discount through my tips and tools page, or they can use the code. I think it's Physis discount, and it's all lowercase, to get 20% off of your Dubsado subscription. So I just really like them. They have quite a cult following, and it's a good service. And so that's a way for an entrepreneur, whether you're a photographer, wedding planner, that kind of thing, to have a platform where all your contracts and forms and payments and scheduling is all set up in one place.
And they can also find the your Call In Your Dream Clients learning series is on that same page too, which is the tips and tools.
The tips and tools page.
Yeah,
yes,
that's awesome. I was reading through all that yesterday. You offer a lot. You give a lot of advice on that. Online magic for business, web design, branding, and marketing for healers and difference makers. What are healers and what are the difference makers?
Yeah, it's funny how broadly that can actually be defined. So because I have a background as a therapist or a counselor, I kind of specialize in helping now therapists, counselors, psychologists to get their private practice online, to get their website up and running, to get their scheduling and booking system and payment systems in place. So I have a really intimate understanding of the nuances of a therapy practice or a counseling practice, and what it takes to get that up and running online. However, there are so many people, so many of my clients, in fact, are difference makers in one way or another, or they are contributing to kind of the overall healing of the world in one way or another. I have a client who's a lawyer. I have, somebody who's a functional medicine doctor in New Jersey. There's various, different, whether it's sort of obvious healing work like a therapist or a doctor, or whether it's a little bit less obvious, like a dog trainer or a lawyer. Or the lawyer in particular is a good example because she works with like families, and her whole kind of approach is around, if you're nervous about seeing a lawyer, or if you've never worked with a lawyer before, it can be really intimidating to go into a skyscraper office, and often there's something stressful going on in your life at that moment. So people like that can be major difference makers or healers in a way, contributing to the kind of overall betterment of our world.
Wow. And I was wondering, because I know, and again, I'll go back to Kristen, being a healer, I'll call Kristen a healer. She's an awesome person. And that website, what you put and created for her, definitely brings you in and wanting to find out more from her and what she has to offer on Kristen Lane Creative. If you could change, or if you had to change anything in the start of your business, is there one or two things that you might have changed that would have helped you get a better grasp on the business in the beginning?
There's been challenges and things to figure out along the way, but I don't think I would change anything. I'm very much a believer that whatever our path or process has been, it's all important. I could go back and do things perfectly, but then I might not be here right now. Something entirely different might have been the outcome.
What has been one of the most valuable lessons you have learned from starting your own business?
I think one of the most valuable lessons, and this might be helpful to others as well, is the importance of being able to communicate clearly about like what I do and the value that I offer for others. I've really noticed, we were talking earlier about the word of mouth marketing and how effective that can be, but it really makes a difference. And I've really noticed the difference it makes when I'm passionate about what I'm talking about and when I fully believe in the thing that I offer. So when I've delved into other things and dabbled in other things in the past, if I was speaking about it with somebody and I didn't fully believe it, or I wasn't fully behind it, or I just wasn't entirely passionate about it, it comes through. Even if it's just unconsciously or subconsciously, we are all very perceptive of any like incongruence in a person, and we can tell right away. So I think one of the best lessons is just in terms of that clarity of messaging and the passion that you have behind it, and that how that shines through and kind of just draws people in almost in a magic.
And it's true. I know with other women that I've talked to, when they start talking about and the hands start going and their faces, it all brings it all together. And it's that aha moment. It's like, she's really likes what she does. I hear her and I can see the passion in her eyes and I can hear it in her voice. And so I would give that advice to any new business entrepreneur starting out, is to have that belief in yourself and to have that spark that will help you through so much. 1-2 little things of that passion, that fire, and the belief in yourself. I think the advice to, another woman entrepreneur is to believe in yourself. You started it. You can do it. You have to persevere. You just keep pushing through. If something doesn't work, you're going to try something else. But, if you don't try it, you're not going to know. Do you have a mentor, or do you have somebody that has helped you along the way?
Absolutely. I have my best friend has been an entrepreneur since he left high school. So, a good 20 some years, and has never really worked, he's always worked for himself. And then I have, 3 or 4 really close girlfriends who are also entrepreneurs, a couple of them in the same industry. And so all of them have been absolutely critical in the process that it took for me to believe that it's possible for me to leave a government position with a pension behind and do, work that I love in a format that really feeds my soul. Because I think without them, I wouldn't have been able to get to that place of believing that it's possible.
Right. And that leads into one of the goals that I am striving for with the Women Entrepreneur Spotlight is to bring women together to uplift each other, to give advice to somebody they can reach out to and say, I'm having this problem or I'm having this issue. Can you help me? Have you come across it? And I would love to add your name to that list if you say yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Physis Publishing. And why don't you tell everybody one more time where they can find you and the offer?
Yes. So they can find me on Instagram at Physis Publishing and definitely on my website, physispublishing.com. So that's PHYSIS publishing.com. And my free offer is Call in Your Dream Clients. It's a 6-part email series that teaches you all about finding your brand voice and creating your business in terms of your designs and your website and your marketing. And it talks a lot about the energetics of that and being authentic and being in integrity with all of that from the beginning. So building a really strong foundation for your business. And that free offer is available right on my homepage, physispublishing.com, or there's kind of a whole page just devoted to explaining what it is. And that's physispublishing.com/dream-clients.
Lynn, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Listeners, you have to check out Lynn's physispublishing.com. You will not be disappointed. Again, thank you. I appreciate you. You have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on and for chatting with me and for all of your fabulous questions. It just really lights me up to be able to dive into this stuff. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate what you're doing and highlighting, female entrepreneurs and women in business. I think it's really important and valuable. So thanks for doing that as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that because when I set out to do this, it's been in the making for over 2 years. I had started revamping my website. Long story short, I had been talking to wedding vendors and most of them women, hearing their story. It just kind of clicked back then like, maybe I could share this because I think we all can take something away from each other's story to help us on our journey. So again, I appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you. I will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you for listening to Women Entrepreneur Spotlight. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. For updates on my next interview, follow me on Facebook at Woman Entrepreneur Spotlight. Until then, keep being awesome.